The surveillance camera outside the Blackwood County gas station recorded everything in black and white. At 11:42 p.m., a restored 1968 Mustang pulls up to pump number 4. The headlights turn off. The driver's side door opens, but nobody steps out. For 3 hours, the car simply sits there, the engine running, the keys in the ignition. The driver's door swung wide open to the cold November air when a local deputy finally approached the vehicle. He expected to find a stranded motorist. Instead, he found a cell phone resting on the driver's seat, a half-drank cup of coffee in the console, and blood on the steering wheel. The owner of the car was a high school teacher with no enemies, no criminal record, and a strict daily routine. He had vanished into the night, but the evidence he left behind told a story that investigators would spend the next 2 years trying to untangle. Chapter 1. The Last Normal Day. Marcus Thorne was the kind of person who built his life around structure. He was 34 years old, a high school chemistry teacher, and a devoted father to a 7-year-old daughter. Every morning, Marcus woke up at 5:30 a.m. He graded papers at his kitchen table. He dropped his daughter off at school, and after work, he spent his evenings in his detached garage restoring vintage cars. His current project was his pride and joy, a 1968 Ford Mustang. He had purchased it at a local estate sale and spent months hunting down original parts. Friends said Marcus treated the car like a museum piece. On Tuesday, November 12th, Marcus followed his exact routine. He taught 3 classes. He ate lunch in the faculty break room. At 3:15 p.m., he checked out of the main office and walked to the staff parking lot. A security camera at the school exit captured his Mustang leaving the property. He was alone in the vehicle. He turned left, heading toward the residential side of town. It was a normal Tuesday afternoon. But Marcus Thorne never made it home. By the next morning, the school district realized he hadn't shown up for his first period class. His phone went straight to voicemail. His ex-wife, Sarah, arrived at his house to find the front door locked and his garage empty. Something was terribly wrong. Chapter 2. The Discovery. The mystery officially began at 6:00 a.m. on Wednesday. A clerk at a rural gas station 10 miles outside of town called the Blackwood County Sheriff's Office. He reported a suspicious vehicle. Deputy Miller was the first to arrive. He found the 1968 Mustang parked haphazardly near the edge of the lot. The engine was still warm. Miller approached with his flashlight drawn. The driver's side door was wide open. The keys were in the ignition. Inside, Miller saw a terrifying stillness. Marcus's wallet was tucked into the sun visor. His jacket was draped over the passenger seat, but it was the steering wheel that caught the deputy's attention. There was a smear of dried blood on the leather rim. Not a pool, just a swipe, as if someone with a cut hand had frantically grabbed the wheel. Investigators immediately taped off the gas station. They ordered a full forensic sweep of the vehicle. But the initial search yielded more questions than answers. The gas station cameras were angled poorly. They captured the Mustang pulling into the lot, but a large delivery truck blocked the view of the driver's door. By the time the truck drove away an hour later, the Mustang was empty. Whoever was driving the car had vanished into the blind spot of the camera, and the surrounding area was nothing but miles of dense Colorado pine forest. Chapter 3. Initial Investigation. Detectives started where they always do. The victim's inner circle. They needed to understand Marcus's life, his finances, and his relationships. They interviewed Sarah, his ex-wife. The divorce had been finalized 2 years prior. It was difficult, but amicable. They shared custody, and Sarah was completely cooperative. Her alibi was solid. She was working a night shift at the local hospital, surrounded by co-workers. Next, they looked at his finances. Marcus lived modestly. He paid his bills on time. He didn't gamble. He had no suspicious debts. But when forensic accountants pulled his recent bank statements, they noticed an anomaly. 3 days before his disappearance, Marcus withdrew $4,000 in cash. It was the largest withdrawal he had ever made. When detectives searched his home, the cash was nowhere to be found. There were no new car parts, no new electronics. The money had simply vanished along with him. Detectives began pulling cell phone records. They wanted to trace the final digital footprints of Marcus Thorne. The data showed his phone left the high school at 3:15 p.m. It traveled to his house. At 7 p.m., the phone pinged a tower near the edge of town, and then it stopped moving. It stayed perfectly still until it was found on the front seat of his abandoned car. Chapter 4: Suspect Introductions. With the timeline established, detectives focused on 2 individuals who knew Marcus best. The first was Elias Vance. Elias owned a local auto body shop. He and Marcus had a complicated history. A year earlier, they had both attended the estate sale where Marcus bought the Mustang. Elias wanted the car for his shop. Marcus outbid him. Witnesses reported that Elias was furious, claiming Marcus didn't know how to handle a classic engine. Recently, Elias had been leaving voicemails on Marcus's phone, offering to buy the car. The tone of the messages grew increasingly aggressive. When questioned, Elias admitted he wanted the Mustang, but he swore he hadn't seen Marcus in weeks. The second person of interest was David Adler. David was Marcus's closest friend. They had known each other since college. David was a real estate agent struggling in a slow market. Detectives learned that David frequently visited Marcus's garage. He was one of the few people who knew the security code to the side door. During his interview, David appeared devastated. He claimed he was at a local diner on the night Marcus disappeared. But investigators noticed something strange about David's body language. He kept checking his watch. He asked highly specific questions about what the police had found in the car, not about Marcus, about the car itself. Chapter 5: Evidence and Contradictions. 2 weeks into the investigation, the forensic lab delivered a critical report. They had analyzed the floor mats from the Mustang. The driver's side mat was covered in a distinct type of red clay. This was a massive problem. Blackwood County is known for dark, loamy soil and pine needles. There was no red clay anywhere near Marcus's home, the high school, or the gas station. Detectives brought in a geologist from the state university. She examined the soil samples and pinpointed a specific location. The red clay was unique to an abandoned mining quarry 20 miles south of town. Investigators immediately organized a search team. They drove out to the quarry. The area was isolated, accessible only by a single dirt road. Deep tire tracks were embedded in the mud. The tread pattern matched a 1968 Ford Mustang. Near the edge of the quarry, searchers found the missing piece of the puzzle: Marcus's keys. They had been tossed into the brush, and a few feet away, a shovel with a broken handle. The timeline was shifting. Marcus hadn't driven directly to the gas station. He, or someone driving his car, had gone to the quarry first. Detectives pulled David Adler back into the interview room. They asked him to repeat his alibi for the night of the disappearance. David confidently stated he was at the diner from 60 Mallards to 9 p.m. to 9 p.m. He even produced a receipt, but investigators had already checked the diner's security footage. David was there, but he wasn't alone. He was sitting in a booth, aggressively arguing with Elias Vance. Chapter 6: Major Twist. The revelation that the 2 suspects were together changed the entire trajectory of the case. Why was Marcus's best friend meeting secretly with his automotive rival? Detectives subpoenaed the phone records of both men. The data revealed a hidden network of communication. David and Elias had exchanged over 50 text messages in the week leading up to Marcus's disappearance. They weren't rivals, they were working together. But the biggest twist came from a secondary search of the Mustang. Investigators decided to dismantle the interior, looking for anything they might have missed. When a technician carefully removed the interior paneling of the passenger door, something fell to the floor. It was a small leather-bound pouch. Inside, detectives found heavy circular metal discs. They were rare antique gold coins. The estate sale where Marcus bought the car hadn't just sold him a vehicle. The previous owner had hidden his life savings inside the door panels decades ago. Marcus had inadvertently purchased a treasure. Detectives realized that Marcus must have found the coins during his restoration process. He likely took one to a dealer to get it appraised. This explained his sudden $4,000 cash withdrawal. He had sold a single coin, but Marcus made a fatal mistake. He told his best friend about the discovery. Chapter 7: Investigation Breakthrough. The motive was no longer a mystery. It wasn't a random carjacking. It was absolute, calculated greed. Investigators brought Elias back to the station. This time, they didn't ask about his alibi. They placed photographs of the gold coins on the table. They showed him the text messages between him and David. Elias stared at the photos. The color drained from his face. He realized David had lied to him. Elias broke the silence. He confessed that David had approached him with a plan. David knew Marcus found something valuable in the car, but he didn't know exactly where it was hidden. David needed Elias's mechanical expertise to dismantle the Mustang quickly and quietly. They planned to steal the car from Marcus's garage, strip it, find the valuables, and abandon the vehicle. But Elias insisted he only agreed to a theft. He never agreed to hurt anyone. On the night of the crime, Elias was waiting at the diner for David to bring the car. But David arrived late, covered in dirt, and without the Mustang. David told Elias the plan had changed and to keep his mouth shut. Elias's testimony gave investigators exactly what they needed: a motive, an accomplice, and a timeline of betrayal. Chapter 8: Truth Revealed. With Elias's statement on record, police obtained a search warrant for David Adler's property. They brought in forensic teams and ground-penetrating radar. They focused on the trunk of David's SUV. Inside the trunk, hidden under the spare tire, they found a burner phone. The phone contained a single contact: Marcus. But the most damning evidence was found in the wheel wells of David's vehicle. Thick, dried red clay, the exact same soil found at the quarry. Detectives brought David into the interrogation room. They laid out the evidence: the text messages, Elias's confession, the soil samples, the hidden coins. David sat in silence for 10 minutes. He stared at the table, his confident facade completely shattered. Finally, he spoke. He admitted that he went to Marcus's house that night to steal the car. But Marcus was in the garage. A confrontation escalated. In a panic, David struck Marcus with a heavy wrench. Realizing what he had done, David loaded his best friend into the trunk of the Mustang. He drove to the abandoned quarry to hide the evidence. He planned to strip the car later. But the mud was too thick, and he grew paranoid that he would get stuck. He abandoned the burial plan, drove the car to the remote gas station, and walked away. He left the keys in the ignition, hoping a random thief would steal the car and take the blame. He never found the gold coins. Chapter 9: Aftermath. Following David's confession, investigators returned to the quarry. Using his exact directions, they navigated through the dense brush and red clay. 50 yards from where the shovel was found, they located Marcus Thorne. The Blackwood County community was devastated. A dedicated teacher and loving father was gone, betrayed by a man he trusted for over a decade. David Adler was charged with first-degree murder. During the trial, his defense attempted to frame the event as a tragic accident born of financial desperation. The jury didn't buy it. It took them less than 4 hours to return a guilty verdict. David was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Elias Vance faced lesser charges. He pled guilty to conspiracy to commit grand theft and tampering with evidence. He served 3 years in the state penitentiary. The gold coins that sparked the tragedy were eventually turned over to Marcus's estate. They were placed in a secure trust for his 7-year-old daughter. A bitter financial inheritance bought at the highest possible price. Chapter 10. Final Reflection. The abandoned Mustang at pup number 4 initially looked like a random crime of opportunity. A carjacking gone wrong, a motorist targeted by a stranger in the dark. But true crime rarely relies on strangers. The most dangerous threats often come from the people who know our routines, our secrets, and our vulnerabilities. Marcus Thorne did everything right. He worked hard, cared for his family, and enjoyed a quiet hobby in his garage. He stumbled upon a stroke of luck that should have secured his daughter's future. Instead, it exposed the hidden desperation of a friend. The Blackwood County Sheriff's Office closed the case file. The gas station camera still records the empty parking lot every night. And the town remembers a teacher whose only mistake was trusting the wrong person with a secret. Sometimes the truth doesn't just reveal who committed a crime, it reveals who people truly are when they think no one is watching.